Well, what I purposed to emphasize too was the negative side of our prioritizing. We're not pushing any political, social, or economic agenda, or quite honestly, religious agenda either, or philosophy. I suppose you could very loosely call it a religious type theosophy, in the sense that clearly it's something about the supernatural. God, I mean, I'm not thinking of God as just describable even by material, am I? Only from the point of view of, in as far as such might be helpful or indicate some greater Gnostic understanding in spiritual terms, I mean, by analogy, or I think the Bible translations typically by parallels, drawing parables and so forth. We get the message, and it's not the literal one being portrayed, which is the foundational concern with literalists, that they're missing the point. They're thinking of Jesus walking on the water and feeding 5,000 people. They're not thinking of it in spiritual terms. They may be trying to think of it in principle terms. Oh, we should somehow be trusting that we can, we have freedom over the elements, and we can heal people and feed people. As in meet their material needs. It's unlikely that he's thinking only of that, isn't it? He's thinking of a life of trust and faith, and he might be thinking in terms of physically miraculous, but more importantly, spiritually wonderful purposes, achievements, experiences, and so forth. So in simple terms, I've not come to change the world. I've not come to bring peace upon the earth. In fact, God seems to have set up this universe to be an amazing mix of not just good, but good and evil. And arguably that's so that we know the difference and appreciate the difference. And in that regard, the universe does a very good job. Most of us that survive here, any length of time, hopefully get wiser. By which I mean become more sensitive to what's good and what's bad, and clearer as to what is good and what's bad. The place achieves its purpose. So I've not come to change it. You're thinking of it in physical terms, that perhaps the zealots wanted Jesus in the story to lead a revolution, and he says no. Well, what's the deeper principle behind this presentation? People who are zealous for certain changes want your support, but you don't give it. It's not that you think they're wrong or right. You just don't give it, because that's not your priority. I've not come to put the planet right, even in small ways. My goal is only in terms of this great calling. that I help others to know Thee. Doesn't mean to say I ram it down their throat, partly because that makes them want to run a mile and they're oppressed by it. But I'm certainly there to put it on the menu, to let them know if they want direction. Well, this is a way to go, as I understand it. And not in certainty either. In other words, it's not compulsory. You can't not do this because obviously this is the only way to go. Because you want them to choose it of their own free will. Namely, that this is what they truly value. Their understanding of their loving God. And in being devoted to such, they become clearer on what their personal, loving, wonderful God must be. They learn from the experience of good and evil presented in the world. It's a good school. In fact, it's absolutely brilliant, of course. Schools are. Because they not only take the brilliance of truth, but they actually put it in a form that the kids can receive it. Oh, how lovely. And what child can't receive the fact that Mum and Dad love them? It's obvious, but for Mum and Dad, I mean in good cases you might say, but for Mum and Dad, they wouldn't even be alive. And they're provided for shelter and home and, I mean, hopefully, and love and care and you know what I mean. Isn't that wonderful? So if they appreciate that God is a perfect God, wonderful, kind, loves all his family, and his family is vast, then you've helped them on the way. And that's our priority, you see. Nothing else. Not some religious doctrine. Not some philosophical grasp of the world. Well, it is philosophical, I guess, but if it's religious, it's incredibly general to religions. A bit like, you might have thought that religions are very similar in ethics, and they are, typically. They've got the same ethics. Don't kill. Don't steal. Honour your parents. Love God, typically, unless it's Buddhism. But, even then, it's supposed to be devoted to the Buddha, I think. Or to your guru, I don't know. See him as a God of some sort, but, Thank you, Heavenly Dad. So quite simply, no, I've not come to change the world. I'm not going to be critical of the government or the opposition or business or voluntary bodies or charities or councils or I'm just not motivated to be critical or to change or to press or even to spend a great deal of time in praising and lifting such up either. It's just not my kingdom. My kingdom's not of this world. And it's within me. And the only difference between me and you is that I know it and perhaps you don't. Oh, you're missing so much. How can I bless you? How can I let you know that all this loveliness is to hand? The kingdom of heaven. Your heaven. Not just my conception of it. Whatever your conception of it is. When you really look within yourself, what do you value? I tell my little boy as he goes to school, it's not my son, those are one of the children I take with my daughter, bring him home as well. And I say, what do you really value? It's not all this computing games that you're talking about. Look how alive you are because you're with my daughter, Aria, again. I mean, they're both very young. Aria's just coming on 12 and this little boy is a year behind. And that's when you're happiest. What you actually value is friendship. That's more important than your computing. Your computing without a friend is nothing. It's just loneliness. Occupation takes your mind off things, but what you really value is friendship. And of course, if you were without mum or dad, then you start to really value that too, in its absence, or without a home. In other words, know what you truly value. And then think of your God in terms of that. And it's not wise to say, I hate doing so-and-so, schoolwork, academic study, I hate studying. You're making your life miserable that way. You don't hate anything. I refuse to hate anything. If it's avoidable and I don't like it, well, I avoid it. But if it's not, I decide to enjoy it and do it well. Make it a blessing. Do you see you're training to be God? An adult version of what you are at present. He takes all things and makes them wonderful. Look at the beauty of the natural world around you. Just lovely, wonderful. And people. People can be incredibly kind and helpful and a blessing and lovely. So you just need to focus on more and more whatsoever's good and lovely. And it transforms you. You realise you're filled with joy and happiness, pleasure and assurance, hope, peace, everything you value. Love, kindness to others and receiving it. You're aware of the kindness and thankful, filled with thanks and gratitude, you see. Transforms your existence. I don't hate anything. I'm not going to hate study. Study's difficult and I don't like it. Ah, right, well, I shall choose to enjoy it then. And did. Result? I became a professional academic. Paid to study. Paid to study what I want, what I like most, what I'm good at, and become, well, the world thinks brilliant, but you know what I mean, good at. How lovely. And the joy unspeakable, full of glory, standing in thy presence, O Lord, so that you come to love God with all your heart, soul, mind and strength, for all his kindness, in gratitude of all his goodness and grace, and blessing to you and all his creation. You found the kingdom of heaven. You don't worry about dying. There's no such thing as death for you. You have passed from judgment of everything unto life. Life abundant. Life eternal. Bless you. We are blessed, fantastically blessed. Children of God. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.